Good afternoon, my conscious co-creators. Welcome to another edition of the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. I am very, very pleased that you are all here with me today. Can you believe it's September already? Hard to imagine. The summer just flew by. I don't know about you. I had a very busy one. Hope you enjoyed last week's show. It was a fun conversation. We've got another great one in store for you today. Of course, first we start with my blog post from a couple of years ago. And today's blog is entitled, "The Most Essential Skill in Life is True Self-Care." One of the most important life skills is never taught. We don't learn it in school. Our parents never really teach it to us. Society in general is fairly ignorant of it. Yet, in order for us to have a fulfilling life, this one skill is so essential. It is essential not because we can't live without it, or because it will make a lot of money for us. It won't even provide us with any security. But it is the one life skill that is so important, so central to our well-being, that we can always learn to do it better. And that is the skill of self-care. Self-care is not about indulgence or being lazy. It is not about eating ice cream or chocolate when we don't feel good. Self-care is about truly meeting our needs in a fundamental way, about nourishing our body, our heart, our mind, and our soul. Self-care is about knowing when one aspect is being neglected while another aspect is being pampered. Sometimes we think that self-care is about sitting on the couch and binge watching our favorite series. And perhaps sometimes it is. Yet real self-care is ultimately about taking care of ourselves in a way that allows us to thrive and flourish. By meeting physical and emotional needs, we are better able to perform at work or show up for a friend in need. It can look very differently from one person to another. Perhaps for one person, self-caring is about taking the time to be alone and to just be with oneself. For another person, it might be about hanging out with friends and connecting on a personal level. And yet for another, it could be about going to a performance to satisfy their aesthetic needs. There is no one way to practice self-care. The key is to take care of yourself in what you truly need in the moment, like going to the doctor or the dentist when you're in pain, or getting a massage when your body aches, spending time in nature surrounded by the beauty of a forest or the ocean or mountains or a lake can be real self-care. We are not taught this most indispensable skill because the previous generations did not really learn about it themselves. They were too busy just surviving to learn what it takes to thrive. Not thriving in a materialistic, money-driven way, but in a soulful, heart-driven way. To practice self-care is to say to life, I am worthy, I'm worth it, and mean it. It is demonstrating to your own nervous system that it is safe to be alive and there is space for your own needs. Imagine what the world would look like if everyone practiced true self-care. Perhaps there would be fewer wars, less strife, more compassion. For when we meet our own needs by practicing self-care, it is far easier for us to be compassionate and kind to others. By truly taking care of ourselves, we have more space in our lives to show up in the best way possible. The truly amazing thing is, when we really practice self-care, life will support us and help us to keep taking better care of ourselves. So where in your life can you learn to be better at self-care? Is there some aspect of your life that requires your attention and self-care? It's really kind of funny that this happens to be the blog post this week, because just had an incident. My mentor, I referred somebody to my mentor for a healing session, and this kind of issue came up, and we were talking about it in the meeting last night, because the gentleman wasn't really taking care of himself, not in a real way. And, this comes up periodically. And look, I'm the kettle calling the pot black. I am as guilty as the next person of not practicing self-care as deeply or as consistently as I could. I do get to the gym not as consistently as I could. I do eat healthier. I still will indulge once in a while. But it's a never-ending practice. It's something that's going to be unfolding for me for the rest of my life. And the reason why I wrote this, I mean, obviously there was some instance of someone that I was coaching around self-care. So it was what was in my consciousness at the moment. But it was also this idea that by practicing self-care, we're actually sending a signal to our nervous system, to our body, to our unconscious, that we love ourselves, that we are worthy of being here, that we are worthy of being taken care of. So self-care is really the ultimate practice in self-worth. And when I made that connection, it just kind of flipped everything for me. And so I really wanted to share that with people, because I think we can all learn something from that. And sometimes we don't feel like we love ourselves. And sometimes it's hard to feel and see ourselves as a person who's worthy of being here and taking up space, and who's deserving of good things in life. And that's okay if we feel that way. Yet if we still do the physical act of taking care of ourselves, and again, I don't mean necessarily taking care of ourselves in the short, immediate term. I mean over the long term. Like, what practice of self-care can we implement today, this week, that will serve us for the rest of our lives? That by forcing ourselves in a way to do this act, we are reprogramming our nervous system that we are worthy. And the more we do it, the more that sinks into the unconscious, the more that sinks into this amazing vehicle known as our bodies, and the more we will actually feel worthy. May not happen in a day, a week, or a month. Can almost guarantee it'll happen in 3 months. In my experience, a new habit practiced for 90 days is what really cements it into our unconscious. So my invitation for you, my loyal listeners, and thank you all for joining me this week. My invitation is to practice real self-care over the next 90 days and let me know what changes you notice, how you feel differently, what maybe shows up differently in your life. Because I know the difference it's made in my life. And I know I still have a lot to learn about it. But if you'll join me on this crusade for self-care, I really and truly believe that as we encourage more and more people to practice self-care, that the world will be kinder. Because by being kinder to ourselves and valuing ourselves enough to practice self-care, we can learn to be kinder and value others as well, because it all starts with us first. So that's my blog for this week. The title of the blog again is "The Most Essential Skill in Life is True Self-Care." And of course, you can find that blog at the radio station's website, talkradio.nyc/blog. And of course, you can always find it on my personal branded website, theconsciousconsultant.com. I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know. I really would love to hear your feedback as to how this helped or didn't help. I mean, you can come back to me in 90 days and say, Sam, I've been practicing self-care for 90 days and didn't do a thing for me. I highly, highly doubt that, but prove me wrong. I'd be more than happy for you to stand up and prove me wrong. But I would just love to hear your journey around it, because it would be, I think, very interesting. All right. And now it is my extreme pleasure to welcome to the show energy healer and coach Brian Muka. In the crucible of Navy special operations, where stress forges the future, Brian discovered an unwavering truth. Stress is not just a barrier, but a gateway to unprecedented success. He began his journey 13 years ago in the throes of combat as a young lieutenant and bomb technician, navigating the murky waters of fear and terror. Brian's approach to success is encapsulated by David Hawkins' concept of power versus force, a wonderful book, which emphasizes the power of attraction over the exertion of force. He believes that a well-oiled system is what distinguishes the extraordinary from the ordinary, allowing individuals and businesses to tackle life's inevitable stressors effectively. Brian is dedicated to guiding others in discovering their personalized blueprint for managing stress, empowering individuals, families, businesses, and communities to thrive. Inspired by the transformation of Batman, who embraced his fear of bats, Brian stands ready to support others in creating and achieving their dreams. Welcome to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Mr. Freedom Sherpa.
Good to be with you, Sam. Thanks for the opportunity, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. Glad you could find that space in your schedule to come on board. So just one quick question before we go to break, because I know you as an amazing energy healer, cosmic Sherpa, person who brings people to really deeper levels of connection to the universe. But you were a bomb tech guy. I mean, you were diffusing things in the military, and I know we're going to unpack this over the course of the show, but what was it that, what was the crucial turning point where you went from being in the most challenging, stressful, dangerous of situations to saying, you know what, I want to dedicate my life to healing people?
Took me a long time to get to that answer. It took a long time of being in the uncertainty like you spoke about.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I started turning the laser inside. I had been looking on the outside for outside validation, living up to other people's expectations, having no idea what my unique prosperity code was. I was here to be really whatever you needed me to be. And my life was exploded. I'll tell you about the best, worst day of my life. And that was the single spark that sent me on this particular journey that we'll talk about today.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. So we're going to take a quick break. So when we come back, I would just love to hear briefly, what got you to decide to join the military, what that experience was like, and then what was the path that brought you to that moment of transformation, okay?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We do this every Thursday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on talkradio.nyc and all over social media on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. And we will be right back with our guest, Brian Muka, in just a moment.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
And welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. Thank you all for tuning in today. I'm really excited to introduce to you my guest. I mean, I already introduced him to you, Brian Muka, a good friend and somebody I've known for several months now. So Brian, I'm just curious, like, how did you get to be a bomb diffuser? I mean, that's not exactly what most people like kind of coming out of school would be like, yeah, I want to go like diffuse bombs and be in like the most dangerous situations possible. What kind of drew you to that?
I think you're my parents and you share the same mystery of how I got here. When I was like 6 years old, man, I was in the adult section of the library learning about Werner von Braun and Gene Kranz. I wanted to be a steely-eyed missile man. So fast forward a couple more years, maybe the greatest recruiting tool that the United States Navy ever created, little movie called Top Gun.
Yes.
I thought my path to becoming an astronaut was to be an F-14 pilot. And so fast forward a little bit, that brought me to like high school. I wanted to go to the Naval Academy. And I had that desire until about sophomore year. And I was like, I don't want to join the military. And so like I had that idea like in April, like I'm done with that idea. In June, I was at Rider University, New Jersey. This was New Jersey Boys State, fundraised by the Veterans of Foreign Wars. So let me unpack that in a second. So the men that had served our country and women, they fundraised and they reserved Rider University for a week to teach the most promising leaders in high school how to be statesmen.
Mhm.
And so that's context for this thing I noticed. So this guy was a World War II veteran. He had his pointy VFW hat on. He had a walker, and he hobbled over. I was like, man, I wonder why I saw this, but I noticed this. I might have been the only person to see this. He hobbled over with his walker, and he bent over like about this fast. Like I'm not exaggerating. He picks up a gum wrapper, And then he hobbles over and throws it away. And I wept because I got it. Like, that guy served his country. He
Mm,
watched his brothers die in combat, but that wasn't enough. Like, what else can I do? And
mm.
so, oh, let me teach the next generation. I was like, oh, I'm going to stand and watch for that guy when he can't. And so I went to Drexel. I studied engineering, and I thought my journey of exploring outer space would be similar to the journey of inner space via submarine. See, I wanted to run nuclear power plants underwater on a submarine. In my sophomore year of college, I was in a submarine, and I was quickly cured of that desire.
I have to say, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut too.
Yeah.
But then I've been wearing glasses since third grade, and I learned in high school that really the only way to become an astronaut when I was a kid was going through the military, was going through the Air Force. And I was like, but I couldn't be an Air Force pilot with having glasses. So I kind of lost that dream. I was like, forget it, I'm never going to make it.
All right. Yeah, so sophomore year, I spent 28 days with the USS Olympia. We spent 5 days going from Saipan, which is near Guam, to Sasebo, Japan. I lived in what felt like the insides of a clock. And
Yeah.
during that particular cruise, one of the junior officers said, "Don't do this as a job. It's like being a slave." And that was about the same time I noticed it was hard to breathe. Oxygen's only 16% for fire purposes, so I was tired all the time. And then I have like that seasonal affective thing where I need sunlight every day.
Mhm.
It wasn't part of my equation. And junior year, my friend now, we've been friends for 20 years. He was a Naval Academy graduate. He drove ships in the Navy, and he was his buds, the SEAL training, OIC. And he started a group called EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal. And I was like, I have no business doing that. And he tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "You need to do this." I was like, "Sir, I have no business being part of a special operations workout group." He goes, "What'd you do yesterday?" I said, "Well, just a quick ride, just did 60 miles on my bike, and I did a little bit of CrossFit." He goes, "This is for you." I had no idea. Like, I had no idea who I was then. And thankfully, his faith in me, we put the strategy together, and I was selected one of 17 college graduates that year to start the special operations program.
Wow. Wow.
Fate.
Yeah, I guess it's just listening to those whispers from the universe.
I was
So,
excited. Yeah.
so you became a bomb diffuser, basically. Did that terrify you at all? I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm sitting there and I know, like, I'm trying to diffuse this thing that could blow up in my face any second, I mean, I'd be shitting in my pants.
So there's a couple ideas to that, right? So I'm really big on how do we inoculate against fear? How do we notice it? How do we use it to our advantage? It turns out that would be really relevant for the work I do now. I didn't know that yet.
Mm,
So how do you get somebody to sit on top of 25,000 tons of explosives, i.e. astronaut?
mm,
Actually, you ramp up the stress.
mm,
It's not like day one, I'm going underwater looking for manta super mines.
right, right.
It's little by little.
Mm,
And then I'm going to be really cavalier here
mm,
in those moments. I either solve this, or quite frankly, it's somebody else's problem.
mm,
I'm
mm,
dead.
yeah,
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 not focusing on what I can't do, but like, this is my job.
right,
Best I know how to do it.
right. So how long did you do that for?
So I was part of that community for 6 years. So
6 years. Wow. How many times did you face that fear of, like, this could be my last moment on Earth?
twice, three times.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And the thing I struggled with the most, Sam, was like, what am I doing here?
Mm,
Like, I must have tricked everybody because I got into this special program in a different way.
hmm
Good enough, but my transcripts look like I went to University of Pennsylvania. I went to Drexel.
Right.
TC unit, was at University of Pennsylvania, so that's an Ivy League school.
Mhm.
Graduate from an Ivy League school. I went to the school across the street, right?
Mhm.
And my degree says commerce and engineering. It's a BS in engineering.
Okay.
So they rounded up to he has an engineering degree. That's not really true, but kind of.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
85% of the way is of an engineering degree. And then the thing that really set me apart, um, my junior year, my dad worked for Lockheed Martin, and so
Mhm.
the master black belt Lean Six Sigma guy, and so they had a contract with the Navy, and so there was this commander that was in his class, and they got to talking, and the commander's like, what's your son want to do in the Navy? And my dad goes, he's crazy. He wants to be a bomb technician, EOD. And the commander goes, I actually run that summer training, and we've never actually had a Navy ROTC midshipman go through that training. If
Oh,
your son can figure out how to get orders for that, I have a spot for him. So I,
wow.
so I went to my command and I was like, hey, I need to be in Norfolk, Virginia at EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, Group 2 for the summer training. Will you write me orders? They said no. And then I said, what if you wrote me no cost orders? Like I pay my own way. They're like, oh, that's easy. So I spent $439. I drove from New Jersey to Virginia Beach, basically.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I stayed in the bachelor quarters and jumped out of helicopters, and we blew up flare pods from the F-14.
Oh, gee.
Like I loved the way that it sucked. Like it was like chess, physically demanding. And I remember being in the lean and rest. So that's the top part of the push-up.
Mm.
And I was like, man, this is home. I just knew it.
Mm.
While I was in that, I just begged God, please, if this is meant to be, let it happen.
Mm.
So I felt like I cheated.
Mm.
And so I judged the thing that I'm really good at is finding there's a door, there's a window. And what I learned as a bomb technician was let's just use the sawzall and saw through the side of the house and I created a new way.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
thought I cheated.
Interesting. Interesting how we don't value our own unique approach to things, right?
That's it.
Uh, so, um, after the 6 years, like what just let's say started you to move onto this path of healing?
I needed it because 4 weeks before we were due to deploy to Afghanistan, I was summoned to my boss's off, not my immediate boss, but the battalion commander, Chris. And man, he had the deepest eye bags I've ever seen on him. And he said, and I knew what this was going to be. I knew this was the end. He
Mm.
goes, Brian, I lost a lot of sleep over this. You're not the man to take your team to Afghanistan. And my insides melted. Because that wasn't just my job, man. It was my identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was prepared to die and for my men if needed. And that wasn't enough. I wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And so that was me burning myself all the way to soot. And that was the moment, the Rumi quote, do not look away from the banished place, for it was here that the light first entered.
Mm. Mm. And so when he told you that, was that like the end of your military career? Did you just quit or what happened?
I had 9 more months.
Oh,
They gave me to October the 1st, 2011. And so I played training officer at the mobile diving and salvage unit, and I had a blast over
uh,
there.
mhm.
And I really got to experience that time. Like I did, in fact, deserve to be here, but I'm ready to move on with my life. So I could have fought that. Like what happened, they didn't
Mhm.
have a right to do it, but I was done
Right.
fighting. I'd been fighting for a year and a half
Mm.
for air to stay at this place. And I was like, you know what? I went to a great college. I was set up to have a military career or a civilian career. I don't want to be somewhere where I'm not wanted. So I decided to let it happen.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's put a pin in it there. We're going to go to break. So when we come back, um, I want to hear about how you got into this whole crazy world of energy healing and kind of what really, solidified you on the path that you're on today, and what is the work that you're doing today, and we'll share that all with our audience. Okay.
Great.
Awesome. So everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We'll be right back with our guest, former bomb technician, Brian Muka, also known as the Freedom Sherpa. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
So Brian, you finish your tour of duty, you come back to civilian life. What brought you onto this weird path of energy healing?
It is weird, and I love the word weird. The definition of that word has changed over the last 100 years. So the word weird meant a disproportionate access to magic. And so the word weird was weaponized to shame folks like us in that. Yes, it is weird and it's wonderful. So I was fired in February of 2011, and that next week I started working with the EOD Group 2 mental health specialist. Her name is Talia Gershon, and she was a gift from God. The first book she had me read was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and she was a very logos therapy proponent. Thank God. Because on the other side of the spectrum is Freud. And so Freud would have me relive that experience time and time and time and time again. So we started creating meaning. And so in that book, I was like, oh, there's a space between stimulus and response. And it's in that space we have our only freedom for growth, right? And our freedom to choose. And so I'm like, okay, cool. And then also like, what if I could create a guidebook for somebody that just had their life exploded? And I became the observer of it. So it really helped. And I started writing. And I would write these like long 3, 4, 9-page emails to Talia. And one day I'm in her office and she's like, where are you getting this stuff from? Like, I don't know. This is just how I'm metabolizing what I'm going through and making sense of it all. She's like, I've been in therapy for 30 years. I've never seen this before. You've got something, kid. Keep going. And that was the birth of Fear Sherpa, this mission. So fast forward, I was in medical sales. The company I worked for was very kind to military officers. I had no business in medical sales. I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know the first thing about it. Although when I was 8 years old, when it would snow, I would sell candy bars and then I would offer to shovel their driveway. And I was like renowned. I forgot that I did that. Right. So I had this talent. And I was coming back from a training, like a sales conference, and I sat next to this guy. And he had a ponytail and he was doing a mind map. And I was like, those things don't go together. And what are you doing? I'm mind mapping. I realized that. What are you mind mapping? I'm a consultant. What do you consult for? God, you're annoying. You ask a lot of good questions. This coach. And he's like, tell me your dream. I want time, location, money, freedom, or something better. And he goes, all right, put some soft talk in there. Maybe someday, possibly. I'm like, I won't. Why not? Because I don't want to take the magic out of that. And he goes, good, here, take my course. There's vocabularies, Mark England. Turns out Mark England's best friend was Brandon Powell. Brandon Powell was inner circle with Wim Hof. So I started training with Brandon. So I did the 10-week course. I met Brandon. We became friends. Longer story short, April of 2018. April 19th, I met Wim Hof. And April 13th, 2018, I'm like, if I'm going to meet Wim Hof, I should probably have a daily breath practice. April 13th until today, I have practiced breath every day since. So 2,140 days in a row. And that's relevant because when I was going through my divorce, I used to ask people, hey, what's the best thing that happened to you today? And what most people would say there is, I got out of bed today. And at that point in my life, I was so type A, forcing my way in the world, like, then what? I didn't understand that getting out of bed could be a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
And so I'd roll over from my tatami mat onto my yoga mat and I would start to breathe. That was the first thing that I used to widen the gap between stimulus and response.
And when did you discover that you had a talent for helping people on this more energetic, cosmic level?
Fairly recently. I would do these breath and ice experiences for people.
Mm-hmm.
I started seeing what they were seeing. Like I would encourage them to imagine a moment of joy, gratitude, or love. And I would see like their wedding day. Cry with them. Like if they were releasing something, I noticed that I would do that with them. And 2020, I was in Colorado and I was at this really elite men's group. I'm like, what am I doing here? I still had the unworthiness thing. That's like my dark passenger. I've learned how to dance with it. I learned that unworthiness is a consequence of not fully sharing my gift. It's not a disease, but a consequence. It's for me. So I'm at this thing. My friend Mike, he's having this like exorcism level experience, and he's in it. He's like growling and just like this. He's like wrestling with this thing, and I just knew to put my hands on his back, and I started channeling this energy through him. And it wasn't Reiki. I was, had my Reiki attunement at that point. It was something else, and I just started sending energy and helping my friend push this stuff out. And I'm in it. I'm in it with him. My buddy taps me on the shoulder. He's like, take a break, Muka. So he jumps in. And he's in it for like a half an hour, and then I tap back in. We worked on him for an hour and a half. And on that first tap out, I opened my eyes, and there was a room full of 35 men loving us, like in concentric circles.
Wow.
It was otherworldly, Sam. And I finished. I was looking at the bright sky in Colorado. And the guy running, I was like, Mike, different Mike, what is this thing that I have? And he goes, I have a coach for you to work with that can help you with that. That never worked out. And I spent $100,000 trying to figure out what this was. And the thing that I found in all of that is the profit that I needed. It was inside of me the whole time. And when I found that, I was like, oh, I realize now why my career in the Navy was exploded. Like there was a time when I was in Iraq, and Saturday mornings, to escape from the emotional pain that I was in, I would go running for 10, 20 miles at a time. And that was better than what I was like. I can do physical pain all day, every day, twice on Sunday, easier than the emotional, spiritual pain for me. So I just bury myself in these workouts. And then this one Saturday morning, I was 10 miles into a run, and I just found myself, Sam, looking over the desert in the middle of a war zone. And I had this thought, what if I don't come back? I just kept running. And I stood there, man, for a long time, my toes over the edge of the asphalt, looking at the expanse of the desert. And I contemplated what it would be like for suicide. Like why, I got to learn why people choose death by suicide. And I heard God's voice say, I have a special mission for you. Come back. I turned around. There was a $60,000 case of water waiting for me. Like, I didn't notice on the way out. There was water, so I drank some water and I ran home. And nobody in my command ever knew that. And it
Wow.
took a long time to realize that I had, in fact, been invited to a more elite mission, helping especially men come back from hopelessness and work through shame and unworthiness and guilt and all of that stuff.
Right.
But I had to go through that to understand what is it like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you experienced it for yourself so you can guide people through the experience because you know the inner territory now.
Hence the word Sherpa.
Sherpa. Perfect. Perfect. So when did the fear Sherpa turn into the freedom Sherpa?
That was about a year and a half ago. I was kind of an idiot, Sam. I don't think I've outgrown that. It allowed me to do dumb things and learn a lot.
Uh-huh.
I showed up like I was still trying to prove that I had something valuable to add to the world.
Mhm.
I'm a bomb technician. You're doing fear wrong. Do it the way I say.
Mhm.
That works great. Like if you had been on stage and had terrible stage fright and learned, oh, stage fright is actually the feeling I get before I do something awesome. And then using that same skill to jump out of airplanes with equipment at night. Oh, that's the same feeling. And then getting fired from my dream job, getting divorced, running out of money with a gift. Like if you've been through all of those things, my method works great as fear Sherpa. And I realized nobody actually wants fear. That's not the goal.
Right.
What's on the other side of fear? It's freedom.
Wow.
My whole posture to that changed. I have a way for me, but my way is going to be different than yours.
Right.
My job now is what's your path? What's your superpower? I can help you find it because I was looking for somebody that could teach me my gift. That's not the right question. The right question is, what's your path?
Mm.
How do we find that together?
How do you find that together?
You're going to hate this answer, but it depends.
I love that answer.
Every person has their unique thumbprint, so it's a mystery.
Right.
And there's clues and there's exactly enough information, kind of like the alchemist, to find it. Trust dreams. What did you want to be when you were 5? Like that's a really relevant question. So you want to be an astronaut. Now you do inner work with, right? Same with me, man. My 5-year-old already knew.
Yeah. So now instead of exploring outer space, we explore inner space.
That's right, brother. The 7th direction, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So we just got a minute before break, but so what do you do now? Like today when you work with people, what are you helping people to achieve, overcome, learn to deal with?
Again, it differs from person to person. Here's what's common. I usually meet somebody when they're in massive life transition, either up or down. And they're the type of person that it's like, I know there's more. Either I've been playing too small and that's why I got fired or hurt or divorced. Or it's like I've achieved success, like I'm winning. What am I here to do on earth? And in both paths, it's like, well, let's discover your gift below the gift that you're aware of.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna call it here. We'll take a break so that when we come back, what I would love is, and we don't have a lot of time when we come back, but maybe you can give us 1 or 2 stories of people you've worked with. What were they dealing with, and like how you supported them in overcoming that and finding their own true path through.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay. Hope you all enjoying this conversation. My loyal listeners, hope you're really getting a lot out of this. Brian's a fascinating gentleman. And when we come back, we're going to just wrap this up with a couple of examples to give you a real sense of what the Freedom Sherpa can really, what's the terrain that the Freedom Sherpa can take you through. So everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, and we'll be right back with our guest, Brian Muka, in just a moment.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented? Are Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
All right, Brian. So in order to ground this and to really give people a solid idea of what happens when you work with them, I'm wondering if you can just give us a couple of quick examples of people who you've worked with who are dealing with something and how you worked with them and helped transform that challenge.
Sure. So I had a sales coach come to me and say, "Hey, I want to learn how to breathe." I said, "Why?" Because I spend 2 days when my childhood trauma comes up. It takes me out of the fight for 2 days. Okay, cool. So what we did was we created an emergency procedure, starting with the breath. And so now I worked with him for over 6 weeks. And each week we went deeper and deeper and deeper. Some technique, but really more like intention behind it. And I found, especially with him, that the breath is the metaphor. So I had him watch, when does your breath stop? That's the precursor to the trigger. And so now after we did a total of 12 weeks worth of work. About 6 weeks into it, he's like, "I want to learn energy," because he's an NLP guy. He teaches influence. And so we started playing with his aura. And about 3 weeks into working with his aura, his wife came on and was like, "Thank you for what you're doing with my husband. I can feel him." And then we talked last week. He goes, "My closing ratio is every other person that I talk to enrolls now." So not only was he able to work through his childhood trauma now in about 2 minutes, so 12 breaths now is his emergency procedure, he's also creating safety and trust with his energy, and his words are now coherent. So that was a pretty good success story. And then also I worked with this guy. He runs a really interesting networking mastermind group. You may know who I'm talking about. And we worked through some stuff, but at the superlative of what I do is using breath, Tai Chi Gong, Tibetan throat singing to power up other people's imaginations. And so we would jump into the imagination, and he would get to see what's next in his business and then be able to go backwards. And then when we weren't doing that, we would go back in time and rewrite childhood trauma stories, not just like with words, but like fully experiencing a different reality. So in something that might take a year with therapy, we can do extremely rapidly, get the treasure and the lesson, reapply it, and then I'm finding it cascades forward to some really rapid growth.
And you work in person or virtually with people?
It's almost 100% virtual unless I'm in a retreat or I have a group facilitation where I'm flown to that place.
Okay, so you do groups as well.
I do. Yep.
Um, how do you see your path growing? Like what you're doing today is different than what you did 2 years ago. What do you see coming next for the Freedom Sherpa? Like where do you see this leading you, or is it all just a mystery?
No, it's not. I get clues. Right now in the next year, it's self-mastery for me. So as I work with other people, what's been really miraculous is each person that I work with that's coming my way is another stair step. Like it's a much harder challenge and it unlocks more power. So that's very much divinely guided. And then Bob Proctor has been a huge influence. I got to meet him and I was challenged to carry on his work. So sales and spirituality. What I seem to be up to is entrepreneurship and Jediship. So we've got an ecosystem and red pill pathway. I was making people, especially men, to make the choice between the deep inner work and ROI. And I'm really good at the spiritual stuff. I've got some sales training, helping people show up more invincibly in those make or break. This could be our finest hour type moments. But I'm not very good at marketing or understanding market or like how to make more money right now. We have an ecosystem for that. So now people don't have to choose. So they can get the terrestrial stuff and then the spiritual stuff all in the same package. So that continues to take off. And then, ultimately it's how do I become the best possible dad?
Well, how old are your kids?
I don't have any children yet.
Oh, okay. To be. So I know you probably work with just about anyone, but I'm sure there's a certain type of individual that's your sweet spot. Sounds like men. But like if I'm a man and I'm struggling with something, like what would I be looking for, or like what would come up for me that I would say, oh, I really need to work with Brian on this?
That's great. So I actually have more clients that are women than men at this
Oh,
moment.
really?
Yes. I find it a harder sell for men in the past to do this work.
Okay.
So I'm drawn to entrepreneurs.
Okay.
I like working with men that were former special operations, special warfare. We've got the force and the war helmet down. Here's what I'm noticing. The people that I work with, this is the war helmet side. They have that. That's fully on. How do I put the Jedi cloak on? Those guys, it's like, how do I get back in my heart and trust my gut? How do I connect to my wife and kids better after combat? That's that particular skill set. Now, with the women that I work with in their chakras, their vision and connection to source is incredible, but their throats are closed.
Right.
And they're not connected to the earth. So it's a different skill set. And with women, it's like permission. Like you don't need to prove the math. You could just know that you know?
Right.
I really like working with folks that are neurodivergent, ADHD, spectrum type stuff. This quantum sound tuning, like they get it immediately and they're having lucid or psychedelic experiences, and you're the medicine. I like that group a lot too.
It sounds like also you'd be good at like grounding people who, let's say, because of trauma or because of some adverse experience, they're somewhat disassociative, they're not in their bodies fully, and you can really help them to embody and ground and bring their experience into the here and now.
Yes. And it's really both, right? So the folks that are here and now that aren't tapping into the spirituality, aren't playing full out. And then find the folks that are like super Jedi, like, hey, we need to be on Earth too. So again, it's this model, Jedi, warrior, what do we need to tune?
Gotcha. Well, Brian, it's been a pleasure having you come on the show. We've been trying to make this happen for a little while. Glad we could find a spot for you. If people want to learn more about you, get in touch with you, how would they find you? Where's your presence online?
LinkedIn is kind of where I hang out, social media wise. I've written a few articles on Substack. So if you want to dig a little deeper, there's a book of mine on Amazon. And then if you want to experience the stuff, I have a free 5-day guest pass I can offer to your audience. It's redpillpathway.com/freedom Sherpa. Hang out for 5 days and you have your own experience in a way that I can't explain.
Having experienced your work, I will highly, highly recommend that people do take advantage of that. So that website, once again, was redpillpathway.
.com/freedom, FREEDOM. Sherpa is SHERPA.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we will be putting that in the show notes so that people can find you and get in touch with you. And you have a book. What's the name of your book?
It's called Your Secret Superpower, Tame Fear to Thrive. It's the field manual for if your life is exploded, or also if someone in your life, you're watching their life get exploded, how do we show up for that? How do we come together?
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Brian, thank you so much. I'm glad we made this happen. Hopefully you enjoyed the interview as well.
Very much so. Thank you, Sam.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. And of course, thank you, my loyal listeners, for tuning in each week. Did you enjoy this episode? If you did, if you know somebody who you think would benefit from it, please share it with your friends, whether it's the podcast or the video. And don't forget, if you did miss any part of today's show, you can always catch the replay on talkradio.nyc and on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitch, and on all the major podcasting platforms, whether it's Google or Apple or Spotify or Pandora, iHeartRadio, we're all over the place. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. We will talk to you all next week.